I'm glad you are here to watch this last video on the topic that I've been speaking on for a while, on the topic of the question of perspective. I have spoken on how to identify and define what is your perspective in any crisis. That it is important to gain and to understand or to build a perspective for yourself in any crisis. Because the perspective that you gain or that you understand in a crisis determines your response. It has a lot to do with how you respond to the crisis. I've spoken on the place of fear in the midst of the crisis. And in this concluding video, I want to speak on how to maintain hope in the midst of the crisis. Because again, your perspective determines what and how you maintain hope in the midst of the crisis. Napoleon Hill said, every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it an equal or greater benefit. Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it an equal or greater benefit. And it further says that the turning point in the life of those who succeed usually comes at the moment of some crisis. The turning point in the life of those who succeed usually comes at the moment of some crisis. And this makes me to think of the story of a lady whose video was sent to me by a friend. This woman, according to the story, she was fired from her job 5 times. And in one of those situations or circumstances, she found herself pregnant. And that was a moment, a downtime moment in her life. After delivering the baby, at the age of 8 months, the child's father was in prison. And according to her, there came a moment in her life when there was nothing and there was no help. She said she had no money to buy Pampers for her baby. And she wrapped the baby in towel for 2 days. And one of those days, she looked at the baby's eyes and said to the child, Mama will never be this poor again. That was the turning point in her life. Because from there on, the energy she gained, the determination she gained to make a difference in her life and in the life of others was established. From that moment, she gained the energy for the future. She gained the momentum and the ability she needed to be who she wants to be. And that came at a point of a never again. I don't know if you have been to that point where you have said to yourself, never again. Or that moment of crisis, that turning point in your life when you say, this will never happen again. I want to state 5 points on how to build and sustain hope in the midst of a crisis. Number 1 is to know and understand that crisis makes us to introduce changes that we were unable to do in normal situations. When things were normal, there were certain changes that were necessary, but because we did not want to rock the boat, because we did not want to change the status quo, because the status quo must remain, or any attempt to make those changes will lead to some crisis. So in order to avert crisis, we stay within the comfort zone. But when crisis comes, those changes that we never wanted to make, those things we never wanted to stop, force a person or an organization to stop those things. Number two, at the end of every crisis, some things will return to normal and some things will never change. And if we look at the situation in which we are in the world today, even though the world is almost back on its feet, things are happening everywhere, people are back to, businesses are coming up, a few decisions have been taken by some organizations which can never go back to normal. A few decisions has been made by institutions, by governments, even by individuals, which can never change again until something else happens. So at the point of every crisis, decisions that are made or responses that are made to attend to those crises, some will return back to normal and some will never return back to normal until something else happens. And that's the situation we are witnessing with this COVID-19. And so the wise man, those who are players, who want to own the future, are already thinking, how do I position myself? How do I take advantage of the various dimensions of changes that have been introduced into different sectors? Where do I fit in? What can I do to fit in? Number three, I wish life was a straight line. I wish there were no curves in life. I wish there were no hills to climb in life. But unfortunately, life is not a straight line. We come by hills that we have to climb. We come by curves that we have to turn. And every time we get off the straight line to the curves or to the hills, we don't know what is on the other side. Crisis brings us into that point where decisions has to be made, even though we don't know what is on the other side. But crisis brings us into the point and releases in us the energy to go over the hill or to make the turning on the curve. Number four, there is always an answer to every situation. When we get by that turning point, when we get to that curve, when we get to that hill that we have to climb, and it seems I can't do anything. No, there is something in you. There is an ability in you. There is a strength in you. There is a grace upon you that has been deposited in you for that moment. It is only asking the right questions, such as, what should I do? But when you lift up your hands and give up and say, well, I don't know what to do. No, that's not the moment. It is the moment of asking the question, what should I do? Looking inwards, relying upon that release, that deposit that God has made and put in you to respond to every crisis, to every situation in life. It is a point that you have come where you have to make that decision of a never again. It's a never again moment. And finally, understand that you can use your present crisis to be better. What do I need to do? You can reset. You can hit the stop button and start all over. Reset. Shut down and reboot. It's time to take advantage of crisis, because crisis brings about something in you that you didn't know you could do. I would like to end with this quote from Job. According to Job, in his book, in chapter 14 from verse 7, It reads thus: "For there is hope of a tree, if it be cut down, that it will sprout again, and that the tender branch thereof will not cease, though the root thereof wax old in the earth, and the stalk thereof die in the ground. Yet through the scent of water it will bud, and bring forth boughs like a plant." There is hope for a dead tree, that at the scent of water a dead tree will spring back to life again. A dead tree does not give up. A dead tree knows that whatever is happening is temporal. It's for a moment. Because there is no water, because I have been cut down and I don't have the ability to do what I used to do anymore, but I'm waiting. The moment I smell water, I will spring up again. The dead tree knows what it takes to live again. The dead tree knows what it takes to be fruitful again. There is hope for a dead tree. Even though to the one who has cut it down, his thought perhaps is that it's over for the tree. So maybe people have thought it's over with you. Maybe you have even had it being said unto you, it can never happen again because you are gone. You are finished. It is over for you. I want you to know that this moment is your never again moment. Even though you have been told it's never going to happen in your life. Yeah, it's your never again moment, the time for you to pick up again. What is your perspective in your situation? Your perspective defines and determines how you respond. Let this moment be your never again moment. Thank you, and God bless you.